It started with a knock. Not a gentle knock, not the kind you expect from a friend or a neighbor needing sugar. It was sharp, entitled, and fast, like someone tapping a demand instead of making a request. I looked through the peephole and saw her blonde bob haircut, sunglasses too big for her face, standing like she owned the pavement in front of my door. I already knew what kind of trouble was standing on the other side. "Hi," she said, her tone sugar-coated but bitter underneath. "I need you to come outside." I opened the door cautiously, half wondering if this was a delivery mistake or some HOA nonsense I forgot about. "You're trespassing," she said before I could even greet her. "Trespassing," I repeated, blinking. "Ma'am, this is my house." She smirked, tilted her head, and waved her phone in the air. "I don't think so. This is my property. I've reported you." That's when it began. The most bizarre, exhausting, and downright insane chapter of my life. A woman I'd never met ever seen was standing on my porch in broad daylight, telling me that the house I had lived in for nearly 7 years was hers. "I think there's been a mistake," I said. "I bought this house in 2016. I have the title deed, mortgage papers, everything." "Oh, I don't think so," she replied, her voice rising. "This house belonged to my aunt. She left it to me." "You're squatting." I was too stunned to laugh for a second. I even wondered if this was some elaborate prank. But she wasn't smiling, and neither were the two people standing behind her, one with a camera phone already recording. "I'd like you to pack up your things and leave," Karen said, crossing her arms. That's when I did laugh. Not out of mockery but pure disbelief. "Lady, you're out of your mind." And just like that, she stormed off, threatening to call the sheriff and bring legal action. I shut the door and stood there for a full minute, trying to process what had just happened. By the next morning, a letter was taped to my front door. It looked legal. It wasn't. Just a poorly written notice with fancy fonts that claimed, "Occupants of the residence must vacate within 72 hours due to improper possession of property." It was signed with a name I didn't recognize, and not a single legal credential. I kept the paper, took pictures, and then did what any sane person would do. I called my lawyer. "I'm sorry, what?" he asked, nearly laughing through the phone. "Someone's trying to claim your home. Without evidence, without even a legal notice." "Yes," I said, walking around my kitchen. "She said it belonged to her aunt. I've never heard of her. I bought this house from a retired couple." That's when I started digging. Pulled out every paper I had. Mortgage, title deed, closing documents, inspection reports, tax records, everything with my name on it. I wasn't just legally covered, I was bulletproof. But Karen didn't seem to care. She came back the next day, this time with a clipboard and a camera crew. Apparently, she had decided to go viral. "Don't worry, TikTok is going to love this," she said, waving the camera around. "I'm exposing squatters who steal houses." She stood on my front lawn, filming herself with dramatic expressions. This is what happens when people think they can just move into homes that don't belong to them. I opened my window and shouted, "You're on my property. Leave now." She smiled at the camera. "See, aggressive, guilty behavior." I called the police. When the officers arrived, Karen was ready with her sob story. "This house is mine," she told them, handing over a printed photo of her with an old woman. "That's my aunt. She lived here for decades. I came back to claim it, and this man had already taken over." The officer looked confused. He turned to me. "Sir, do you have any proof of ownership?" "I have a file," I said, walking inside. I returned with a folder an inch thick, neatly organized. The officer flipped through it, nodding. "Everything checks out. You're the legal owner." Karen didn't back down. "That doesn't mean it's right. He took advantage of an old woman. I bought the house from a couple who moved to Arizona," I said. "They were not related to you. The name on your photo doesn't even match the previous owners." She stormed off again. This isn't over, and she meant it. Over the next 2 weeks, Karen started showing up daily. She parked in front of my house, took photos, tried to talk to neighbors, and even put flyers in mailboxes claiming I was illegally living in her inherited property. My neighbors were stunned. Some supported me, some kept their distance, unsure of what was going on. Then things got worse. One evening, I came home to find my locks jammed. Someone had shoved glue into them. I had to call a locksmith. That same night, security footage from my doorbell camera caught Karen walking up to my door holding a key. I sent everything to my lawyer. "This is harassment," he said firmly. "We're going to file a restraining order. She's trespassing, making false claims, and damaging your property." We started documenting every incident. But Karen didn't stop. She tried everything. Calling the city, trying to get utilities shut off, filing noise complaints, even attempted to report me for animal neglect because my dog barked when she approached the fence. It all failed. But she kept pushing. Then came the legal threat, a formal envelope, delivered via courier, claiming that Karen was filing a civil suit to regain possession of her family home. My lawyer read it carefully. "This is paper thin. No proof, no title, no will, nothing. She's trying to bluff her way into a settlement. But she wasn't just bluffing, she was dangerous. One night, I heard footsteps in my backyard. My motion lights came on. When I looked through the window, I saw her trying to open my shed. I ran out, shouting. She screamed and ran, but not before. I caught it all on video. The next day, we filed the restraining order. The court granted it. Karen was legally banned from coming within 200 feet of my property. Still, part of me felt uneasy, because people like Karen don't just stop when the law tells them to. They wait, they plot, they escalate. My lawyer, Adam, had a plan. Let her try to serve you. Let her file this nonsense lawsuit. I'll handle it. She'll make a fool of herself in court. He was right, and he was wrong, because Karen wasn't just delusional, she was well connected. The court date arrived. I sat in that room, calm but alert. Karen entered wearing a long black coat, holding a thick binder, and walking like a queen entering her kingdom. She smiled at me like we were old friends. Then, her lawyer entered. Except he wasn't a lawyer, he was her boyfriend, no license, no standing, just a man in a cheap suit trying to represent her. The judge wasn't amused. This is not a legally recognized attorney. The judge said, "Do you have counsel?" Karen shouted, "He knows the truth, he'll explain everything." The judge sighed. "We're proceeding based on documents and evidence, not emotional rants." That's when Adam walked in, .mylawyer.com, professional, holding a briefcase and a cord, binder thick with evidence. He walked straight to the judge, handed over the documents, and in 5 minutes, dismantled Karen's entire case. He showed proof of purchase, tax records, closing documents, the previous owner's statements. He even included police reports, video footage, and screenshots of Karen's TikTok rants. The courtroom was silent. Karen's face turned red. Adam turned to her and said, "This ends now. You don't own this house. You never did. You are harassing a legal homeowner, and if this continues, we will press charges for stalking, trespassing, and attempted fraud." The judge agreed. But Karen wasn't done. And that's where the real story begins. After the court dismissed Karen's claim, I thought it was over. I wanted to go back to my quiet life. No more confrontations, no more camera crews, no more ridiculous flyers in the neighborhood. But with people like Karen, you don't get peace. You get rounds. And that was just round 1. 3 days after court, someone egged my house. Not just a couple eggs, a full-on attack. Windows, front door, garage, even my car. The stench in the summer heat was unbearable. My security camera didn't catch her face clearly, but her silhouette and her walk were unmistakable. I called the police again, filed a report, handed over the footage. They added it to the growing stack of incidents tied to her name. The officer told me honestly, she's walking a very thin legal line. One more slip and she faced criminal charges. I tried to ignore it, but Karen wasn't done. A few days later, my mailbox was pried open. A bunch of my mail was stolen. Bills, banking info, even junk mail. I had to freeze my credit, alert the post office, and install a locking mailbox. Then she started sending letters, fake eviction notices, letters that looked official, sealed in envelopes stamped with fake law firm logos. They all said the same thing. "You are illegally occupying this property. Immediate vacation required." I gave everything to my lawyer, Adam, who by now had a folder with her name printed in bold. His office had started jokingly calling it the Karen case. Only, none of this was funny anymore. Adam filed a formal cease and desist letter. We even got a no-contact order approved, but Karen thrived on drama. She started visiting the neighborhood again, standing at the edge of my property line with a measuring tape, pretending to calculate something. One time, she brought a lawn chair and just sat on the sidewalk for hours, staring. My neighbors, once amused, were now concerned. "She's scaring my kids." One neighbor told me, "She told my husband she used to live here, and you broke in." Another said, "Then the phone call started. I received anonymous calls at odd hours, breathing, sometimes a whisper, sometimes silence, sometimes a voice saying, 'Get out. You don't belong there.'" I started to wonder what was really going on in her head. It was clear she wasn't just someone who made a mistake and couldn't admit it. She had built a story, a whole fantasy, where she was the victim and I was the villain. And she had an audience. Her social media videos were getting views, likes, comments. People believed her. They didn't know the truth. They didn't care about paperwork or deeds. They saw a woman crying into a camera, saying, "He stole my aunt's home." Adam warned me, "We need to think long-term. If she's gathering attention, she may attract someone dangerous, not just her." And he was right, because the next time Karen came by, she wasn't alone. I came home one evening and found 2 strange men leaning on the hood of my car. One of them stepped forward and said, "You're the guy who took her house." I paused. "Who are you?" He smiled. "Let's just say we don't like squatters." I backed away and locked myself inside. The next morning, my front yard was trashed. Plants ripped out, mailbox shattered, dog bowls smashed. This wasn't just Karen anymore. This was turning into something else. Adam suggested we install full outdoor surveillance. We did. Cameras in the front, back, side, and a new alarm system. I also started documenting everything. Every knock, every note, every phone call. I built my own record. Then, something strange happened. A woman, maybe in her 50s, knocked on my door. She looked nervous. She wasn't with Karen, and she seemed unsure about being there. I just wanted to see the place. She said, "Excuse me, my name's Latrice. I used to be Karen's friend. She told me about this house, said it was hers. I believed her at first, but I don't know anymore." I invited her to the porch. She didn't step inside, just looked around. She shook her head slowly. "She's not well," Latrice whispered. "She was obsessed with her aunt's old house. But I don't think this is it. I don't think she even knows where that house really is. She said her aunt lived here." I said, "No," Latrice replied. "Her aunt passed away years ago, but not here. She lived in another state. Karen's been through a lot. She's angry at everyone. I just thought you should know. She's getting worse." I thanked her. It was the first honest conversation I'd had about Karen in weeks. And then, the worst of it happened. Late one night, my motion sensor lights tripped. In the backyard, I looked out the window and saw a fire, a small one, in the corner of the fence, but growing fast. I ran outside with the hose, screaming as I put it out. Someone had set a pile of dry leaves and garbage against my fence and lit it. The footage showed a figure, hoodie pulled tight, walking away quickly. It wasn't clear, but it didn't need to be. I called the fire department and the police. This wasn't just harassment, it was arson. That's when Adam made the call. "We're filing criminal charges. She's no longer a nuisance. She's a threat." And then, as if fate was watching, something happened that changed everything. A man showed up at my door. Older mid-60s, suit jacket, .com voice. "Hi," he said. "My name is Leonard. I'm Karen's uncle." I didn't know what to expect, but I invited him in. He looked tired, sad, not angry, not defensive. "I heard what she's done," he said quietly, "and I want to apologize. Her aunt never lived here. This house has no connection to our family. Karen has always struggled with boundaries." In reality, I listened, not sure what to believe. "She became obsessed with an old photo she found," he continued. "A picture of a similar house. She convinced herself it was this one. I tried to stop her. Her parents tried to, but we failed." "Why didn't you come sooner?" I asked. "Because we were embarrassed and afraid. She's threatened family too. But this has gone too far." He gave me a letter, handwritten, from Karen's mother. It read, "In shaky script, we are deeply sorry for everything our daughter has put you through. Please know this house is not ours. It never was. We hope she gets help and you get peace." I sat in silence after he left. Finally, someone had spoken the truth. But it didn't undo what had happened, and it didn't mean she was finished, because just 2 days later, she came back. Not to my house, but to the courthouse. Karen filed an appeal. She wasn't giving up, and I knew, if I wanted this to end once, and for Ali would have to take her down publicly, legally, and without hesitation, because next time, she might not stop at the fence. The moment Karen filed an appeal, everything inside me tightened. I wasn't surprised, just exhausted. The court had already ruled in my favor. The evidence was ironclad, but now I had to prepare for another round of courtroom nonsense. More lies, more character attacks, and more sleepless nights wondering what she'd do next. Adam, my lawyer, was calm as ever. "She's grasping at straws," he said. "Her appeal is based on emotional testimony and conspiracy theories. No court in their right mind will let this go far, but we still need to prepare like it's serious." And so we did. Adam pulled the full court transcripts, gathered every photo, every police report, every video clip I had. He even dug into Karen's online presence, and that's where we found something useful. Her social media. Dozens of posts, videos, rants, clips of her standing outside my home, calling me a thief, calling the legal system corrupt. Most of her comments were sympathetic. People online love drama, but a few saw through it. Some asked for proof. Others called her out, and one person posted something that changed everything. A screenshot of a Craigslist ad. It was from 3 years ago. Karen had listed a completely different house in a different state, claiming that house was her aunt's. Same story, same tears, different location. Adam raised his eyebrows. "This woman is running a script." We found 2 more posts like it, one from a legal forum, another from a public complaint board. All similar patterns. Karen claiming to be the rightful owner of a property she had no legal tie to. It wasn't just about me. This was her pattern. Still, that didn't mean the court would throw the appeal out without a hearing. The day of the hearing arrived. This time, Karen came dressed like she was walking a red carpet. Big sunglasses, long black coat, heels clicking across the floor like she owned the place. She was alone. Her lawyer boyfriend hadn't returned, likely scared off after the judge shut him down the first time. She strutted into the courtroom, sat 2 rows behind me, and started whispering to herself, The judge arrived. This one was new, a different face from the original trial, which made me nervous. Karen's turn to speak came first. She stood confidently and launched into a dramatic speech about how her family had been cheated, how documents had been forged, and how I was living in a house that rightfully belonged to her bloodline. She waved a framed photo in the air, the same photo she'd shown to police weeks earlier, her and an older woman. No date, no name, no proof of connection to the property. Then the judge turned to Adam. Your response? Adam stood with the same calm posture he always had, like he'd done this 1,000 times. Your Honor, he said, we are submitting 3 key exhibits for review. The first is the legally recorded deed of sale from the previous owners to my client. The second is a timeline of occupancy showing uninterrupted residence for over 7 years. And the third, and perhaps most telling, is a series of public posts from the appellant herself, showing similar claims in 3 different states. He clicked through the evidence on a monitor in the courtroom. There it was, Karen, on video, saying the same lines. This was my aunt's house. He took it. I'm just trying to reclaim what's mine. Different houses, different men. Same story. Karen jumped up. Those are taken out of context. That's not the same. The judge held up a hand. Miss, you'll have your turn to respond. Sit down. Then Adam revealed the letters. The apology from Karen's uncle. The handwritten letter from her mother. The judge read them silently for a moment. Did your mother write this? The judge asked. Karen hesitated. She was manipulated. Did she write it? He repeated. Yes. And your uncle? Yes. The judge looked up. Then I don't see why we're here. Karen's eyes went wide. You don't understand. This isn't about paperwork. This is about justice. I lived here in my mind. I've dreamed about this house since I was a child. The courtroom fell silent. The judge took off his glasses, leaned back, and said, we are here to determine legal ownership, not emotional connections. Your appeal is denied. But that wasn't the end. As we walked out of the courtroom, Karen followed us. You think you've won? She hissed behind us. This isn't over. You took my future, my legacy. I hope you rot in that house. Adam turned around slowly. If you come near my client again, I will personally ensure you're behind bars. This isn't just harassment anymore. This is obsession, and it ends now. Karen stared at him, then at me, then turned and walked away. But she didn't disappear. A week later, I noticed someone had followed me from the grocery store. I drove in circles, tested turns. Sure enough, they followed. I called the police and drove straight to the station. The car vanished when I pulled in. 2 days after that, I found my trash cans knocked over. A trail of my personal mail scattered down the street. I had to wonder, how long could one person hold on to a delusion? Adam suggested we issue a public statement, something to put on record in case she tried to twist the story again. So I did. I sat in front of my camera and told the full story. I kept it calm, respectful, and clear. No mocking, just facts. How I bought the home, the court battles, the lies, the social media threats, and how it affected my life. I ended the video with one sentence. Sometimes, the scariest people are the ones who believe their own lies. The video went viral, not tens of millions, but enough. Thousands of comments, support. Some even recognized Karen from other neighborhoods, other towns. And then, something shifted. Karen's pages went dark, her TikTok deleted, her Facebook gone. No more flyers, no more sidewalk measuring tapes, no notes, no eggings, no threats. She vanished. At first, I didn't trust it. I kept the cameras up, kept everything locked, kept Adam on speed dial. But weeks passed, then a month, then 2. Life slowly returned to normal. Neighbors started talking to me again. I planted new flowers out front, replaced the damaged fence, hosted a small dinner party just to feel normal again. One night, I was sipping tea on my porch when a neighbor walked by. He smiled and said, "Glad to see it's peaceful again." I nodded. Me too, but part of me wondered what happened to Karen. Where did she go? Was she done, or just waiting? And just when I thought it was over, I received an envelope. In the mail, no return address, just my name. Inside, a single photo, the house, my house, with the words scribbled in red ink, "Still mine." The photo rattled me more than I'd like to admit. Not because of what it showed, the house I already lived in, but because of what it meant. Karen wasn't done. Not really. Even after the court, the police, the restraining order, the public embarrassment. She still believed the lie. I sat with the photo in my hands for a long time. The words "Still Mine" scrawled across the front in red ink weren't just graffiti, they were a statement of obsession. A promise that she hadn't forgotten. Adam, my lawyer, came over the next morning. I handed him the photo. He looked at it and said quietly, "We can escalate this to criminal threat. She's testing boundaries again." I nodded, but something inside me had changed. I was tired of reacting, of waiting for the next bizarre visit, the next false accusation, the next act of damage or vandalism. I needed it to end. We filed a full police report and included the photo with the original handwriting. The detectives took it more seriously. This time, this is targeted behavior, one officer told me. And it's escalating. We'll open a full investigation. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me sit up. Every passing car made me glance at the window. I had security lights, cameras, fences, but still, my peace was gone. It wasn't just a house anymore, it was a battlefield too. Days later, the police called. "We'd like to speak with you in person," the officer said. I drove to the station, hands gripping the wheel, heart thudding against my chest. When I arrived, they took me into a private room and handed me a folder. Inside was surveillance footage. Karen, in a wig, standing across the street from my house. A week prior, she'd parked her car a block away and stood under a tree for nearly an hour, watching, writing in a small notebook. "She's stalking you," the officer said. "We also confirmed the letter you received. Her fingerprints are on it. This gives us grounds to press formal criminal charges." That was it. They issued a warrant. Karen was arrested a week later in a different city, where she was apparently living out of her car. Inside her vehicle, they found dozens of pages of handwritten notes, sketches of my property, fake property documents, and even photos of me walking my dog. She had been building her own version of reality, one where I was the enemy and she was the victim of a grand theft. It was delusion at its deepest. She was charged with stalking, harassment, and attempted fraud. When the story hit local news, it spread like wildfire. People were stunned. Why would someone go to such lengths for a house that was never hers? They asked. But I knew. For Karen, it wasn't about the house. It was about identity, control, a fantasy she clung to because letting go meant facing a truth she couldn't handle, that she didn't own, didn't control, didn't matter in that space the way she believed she should. She was offered a plea deal with court-ordered psychiatric evaluation and rehabilitation. She took it. Her family appeared at the hearing. Her mother looked like she'd aged 10 years. Her uncle sat quietly in the back, hands folded. No one celebrated, not even me, because the truth is, even when justice is served, the damage doesn't vanish. I still jumped at late-night knocks, still checked cameras before stepping outside, still kept the alarm system on 24/7s, and most of all, I still struggled with the idea that someone could try to steal your life, not your money or your possessions, but your space, your safety, your identity, and, for weeks or months, the world would just let it happen. A few months passed. Slowly, the tension eased. I repainted the mailbox, planted new flowers. My dog no longer barked at shadows. I hosted a neighborhood barbecue. People came, laughed, asked how I was. We didn't talk about Karen, but I kept the file. The folder Adam gave me, everything inside. Court documents, police reports, screenshots, printed comments, the letter from Karen's mother, and that photo with the red ink. I kept it, not out of fear, but as a reminder. Sometimes, peace has to be protected. And then, something unexpected happened. A year after the final court date, I received a letter, this time, typed, no threats, no strange handwriting. It was from Karen. She apologized. The letter was short, almost painfully restrained. She said she didn't expect forgiveness. She admitted she had been unwell, that she had confused memories with fantasies, that she was in therapy, that she understood now what she had done. It wasn't emotional, it wasn't manipulative, it was just human. I read it twice. Then I put it in the folder with everything else. That was the last I ever heard from her. Years have passed now. The house is still mine. The flowers bloom in spring. The neighbors wave. My dog's gotten older. I still sit on the porch in the evenings, sipping tea and watching the street like nothing ever happened. But deep down, I know that story changed me, not just because of what Karen did, but because of what I had to become in response. I learned that people can rewrite the truth in their heads, and when they do, the consequences can be very real. I learned that the justice system isn't always fast, but when you stand your ground and document everything, it does work. I learned the value of a good lawyer, the importance of community, and how fragile peace can be when someone decides to make you their target. I've seen what obsession looks like, how it grows, how it feeds on attention, how it wraps itself in victimhood and tries to wear your identity like a mask. But most of all, I learned that protecting your home is about more than locks and alarms. It's about knowing who you are so that no one, no matter how loud or insistent, can convince the world otherwise. That house isn't just my address, it's my proof that I endured, that I held the line, that I didn't let madness win. Karen may have tried to claim it, but I never let her take it. And that, in the end, is the victory.